Last night, my sister had a baby, and I found out through a group video call I wasn't added to. I only realized it happened when Jess, my other sister, posted a blurry photo of the newborn in the family chat. A chat I'd muted years ago because Mom used it to passive-aggressively complain about Dad's snoring. The photo had 7 participants listed. I wasn't one of them. I stared at the notification until my thumb went numb, then clicked Jess's profile. Her latest story showed her holding the baby, still in her airport clothes. The caption read that she had landed at 8 p.m. and met her nephew by 8:30. Her flight wasn't even supposed to get in until tomorrow. I called Mom. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice bright and distracted. She said that they hadn't thought I'd care when I asked why no one told me Emily was in labor. She added that I had moved away for college and had my own life now. I'd moved 8 years ago to a city 3 hours away. I visit every Thanksgiving. After I hung up, I left the family chat. Then I cried. It wasn't about the baby. It was about the graduation no one told me about until 2 days after, when Emily's cap and gown photos flooded the chat. It was about the baby shower invite that never came, even though I'd asked Jess 3 times when it was. I texted Emily congratulations. She replied with a thumbs up emoji and thanked me. I wanted to ask why she didn't call, but my fingers froze. What if she said something worse than silence? Later, I dug under my bed for a shoebox of old photos. Me at 6 between Emily and Jess at the beach. Me at 12 in a too big softball uniform. Then nothing. Graduation? Just Emily and Jess flanking Mom. Christmas 3 years ago? Dad alone in front of the tree. I'm in exactly 2 photos after age 16, both candids where I'm half turned away. Dad picked up on the 2nd ring when I called him. He sighed before I spoke. He said that Mom handled the invites and that I knew how she got. I did. Mom once gave Jess the silent treatment for a month after she changed her major without consulting her. He added that he didn't want to cause conflict. It had been tense since I was a teenager, but okay. I drove to Mom's house. She wouldn't open the door. She shouted through the wood that I was always holding grudges and that I needed to let things go. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, watching her shadow move behind the curtains. When I got home, there was a stack of mail on my kitchen counter. Bills, a coupon book, 3 envelopes addressed to my old college apartment, all unopened. I'd moved out 6 years ago. She'd sent a birthday card last year to that address, a baby shower invite 8 months ago, and a graduation announcement. I texted her a photo of the envelopes. She replied instantly that I never updated my info and said it was not her fault. I checked my spam folder. Buried under phishing scams was an RSVP link to Emily's baby shower, sent to an email I hadn't used since sophomore year. Emily called me 2 days later. She said that Mom said I hated kids and that I didn't want to come to the shower because I couldn't stand the noise. I'd babysat Emily's toddler every weekend for a year when she was in nursing school. Dad met me for coffee. He stirred his latte. He said that Mom took it personally when I left and that I was always her favorite. I choked on my sip of tea. She'd called me selfish for picking a college out of state and told me not to come home for winter break if I couldn't commit to family time. Dad shrugged and said that she thought I'd choose them, but I didn't. I blocked Mom's number that night. Then I booked a flight to Costa Rica, a place she'd always called too dangerous. Sending the confirmation email was final. But here's the thing. I don't know if I'm the villain here. Mom's not a monster. She's the woman who taught me to parallel park, who stayed up with me when I had mono, who cried when I got my first period because she felt her baby was growing up. But she's also the woman who spent a decade erasing me from the family portrait, one missed invite at a time. So, Reddit, I guess I'm asking, how do you untangle a knot that's been tightening for years? And when do you stop feeling guilty for wanting to cut it? Now for the first update. Returning from Costa Rica, I found 7 voicemails from Mom. The first 6 were variations of, "Call me back," but the last one cracked, her voice sharp. She told me to stop being dramatic and that I was embarrassing them. I deleted it while standing in baggage claim, my suitcase still lost somewhere between San Jose and Newark. Emily showed up at my apartment 2 days later. She hugged me before I could say anything. She said that Mom told her I hated hospitals and that I had a phobia, and she hadn't questioned it. I had driven her to the ER when she broke her wrist sophomore year and sat with her until 3 a.m. Jess came over that night with takeout. She avoided eye contact. She said she knew about the invites and that Mom would react negatively whenever my name came up. Jess said Mom had warned her I'd call her a traitor if she told the truth. She said she didn't want Mom to stop talking to her. Dad mailed me a check for $500. The note said it was for the trip and that Mom didn't know. He had underlined no twice. I used it to pay a dental bill, half expecting Mom to demand an explanation. While unpacking, I found my old journals in a box. The entries from age 14 onward had Mom's comments in the margins. Next to a paragraph about making varsity track, she wrote that it was selfish to prioritize sports over family dinners. Under a prom photo, she said the dress was too revealing and that people would talk. I had forgotten she used to read them, claiming she needed to keep tabs on my mental state. Emily invited me to the baby's first checkup. Mom arrived as we were leaving, her keys making noise. She didn't speak, just stared at me while the nurse weighed the baby. Her eyes followed us to the parking lot, where she cornered me between two minivans. She accused me of turning our children against her and asked why I couldn't forgive and forget. The baby started crying inside the clinic. Emily mouthed sorry through the glass. We hired a mediator at Emily's suggestion. Mom refused to go. She told Emily that family matters stay in the family, and Emily relayed it to me. I sat in the mediator's office alone, staring at a poster labeled Hidden Emotions. Jess met me at a diner after her shift. She said Aunt Linda called and that Mom has been telling everyone I'm too career-obsessed to visit, even though I'm a paralegal, and she's in med school. She said Mom had told Uncle Greg that I dropped out of college and that she didn't correct her. The waitress refilled our coffee. Aunt Linda called me the next morning. She told me that Mom has been lying for years, but that she had my back. I tried to remember the last time I'd seen her, possibly at Grandpa's funeral, when Mom had said that Linda's divorce was karma for being difficult. I organized a brunch with cousins I hadn't spoken to since high school. 6 showed up. Sarah said Mom had convinced her parents not to lend me money for a car at 17, claiming I'd totaled 2 already. I'd never even had a permit. Mom's letter arrived on Tuesday. The letter accused me of punishing her despite all she had sacrificed. The word punishing was underlined so hard the paper tore. I threw it away, then fished it out and burned it in the sink. The smoke alarm didn't go off. Dad texted me a phone number with no context. When I asked, he said it was Mom's therapist. He added that she's been going since I left. I didn't respond. I started a blog under a fake name, detailing snippets of family dinners and missed birthdays. Comments poured in from strangers supporting me. One user expressed that it feels contradictory to need and hate needing them. I closed my laptop. Emily texted this morning asking if she should tell Mom not to come to the planned baptism if I'm invited. I haven't replied yet. I remember Mom's face in the parking lot. Now for the second update. I agreed to go to the baptism if Mom wasn't invited. Emily hesitated but uninvited her, saying it was the only way to get me there. The morning of, I showed up early, helped set up chairs, and held the baby while Emily pinned a bonnet on her head. The church was quiet, just family and a few friends. Then the doors opened halfway through the service. Mom walked in wearing a white dress, her makeup smudged under her eyes. She didn't sit, just stood at the back, staring. The priest paused. Emily's husband got up, whispered something to her, and Mom started crying loudly. Someone handed her a tissue. Emily nodded at me, then mouthed that she was sorry, before her husband gently led Mom outside. Jess filmed the whole thing on her phone, her thumb on the screen. Later, she tried to show me the video, saying that I needed to see how she had changed. I deleted it right in front of her. I told Jess that we were not doing this. Jess rolled her eyes, but didn't argue. Dad texted me that night. Staying at the Marriott downtown. Can't breathe in that house anymore. I didn't know what to say. He'd never left before. When I called him, he answered on the first ring, his voice thin. He told me that she took $15,000 out of our account and didn't discuss it. He said he was meeting with a lawyer, that maybe divorce was the only way to protect what was left. I sat on my bathroom floor, picking at the grout between tiles, wondering when money became a weapon. Emily's husband called me the next day. He said Mom had pulled him aside a month ago, asked him to keep me away from the baby. He apologized, said he should have told me sooner. I hung up and immediately changed my phone number. That night, Mom somehow got through using Jess's phone. She left a voicemail at 3 a.m., her voice rough. "You're ruining my golden years. I hope you're proud." I played it twice, then blocked Jess's number too. At the grocery store, I ran into Carol, Mom's friend from book club. She cornered me by the avocados, her cart blocking the aisle. She told me that I'd broken my mother's heart and that she cries every Sunday at church. I wanted to ask if Carol knew about the $15,000, or the baptism dress, or the voicemails. Instead, I said to excuse myself and push past her. I wrote a 9-page letter that weekend. I mailed copies to Dad, Emily, Jess, and Aunt Linda. Dad called after reading it, his voice cracking. He said he didn't realize it was this systematic. Emily texted a single heart emoji. Jess didn't respond. Mom must have found out about the letter. 2 days later, Dad moved back home. He said she'd promised to change, to go to therapy, to fix this. But he slept in the guest room. Emily asked me to babysit a week later. I said yes before I could panic. The moment she left, the baby started wailing. I bounced her, sang, checked her diaper. Nothing worked. Then I remembered Emily mentioning a specific rocking rhythm, 3 short sways, then a long one. The baby quieted on the fourth try. I sat there until Emily came home and found us both asleep on the couch. Mom mailed a package to my apartment, a blanket with the baby's name stitched in blue thread. I texted Emily a photo. She replied that I shouldn't bring it over and that she'd handle it. Later, she told me she donated it to the church's charity drive. She said it was just wool and didn't mean anything. Jess got engaged. She showed up at my door with a ring and a six-pack, saying that Mom wants to plan the whole thing and thinks she needs a cathedral and 6 bridesmaids. We drank on the fire escape, and she admitted they'd already eloped at the courthouse. She said she figured it was easier than fighting her. I asked if she was happy. She shrugged and said, "It's a marriage, not a fairy tale." Dad gave me a diary last week, Mom's, from when she was 12. The entries were about her own mother, excluding her from family trips, calling her too sensitive. The last entry read that she would never make her kids feel like this. I closed it and handed it back. Dad said to keep it. I slid it under my bed, next to the shoebox of photos. That night, I almost texted Mom. I wrote and deleted 3 drafts. I settled on that I had read her diary, then unsent it. She's blocked everywhere now except email. Her last message was 2 words, "You'll regret this." I didn't reply. Sometimes I open an email, type "do you," and close the tab. I don't know where this ends. Part of me wants to believe Dad's right, that she'll wake up one day and see it. The other part knows some people cut off everyone around them to stay afloat. If you've dealt with a parent who rewrites reality, how did you hold on to yours? And how do you know when you've done enough to fix what wasn't your fault to begin with? Now for the final update. 3 months ago, I blocked my mom on everything except email. Yesterday, I burned the last photo she sent me. I'm not sure where that leaves us, but here's where it's been. Mom was hospitalized for stress-induced shingles. Dad called to tell me. I didn't ask which hospital, didn't visit. When he brought her home, he said she'd mumbled my name while sedated. Then I remembered the voicemails. Emily's baby said auntie last week. She pointed at me, her tiny fist clutching a teething ring. Mom wasn't there. Jess FaceTimed me later, her camera angled too close to her face, and stated she was pregnant. She waited until the 2nd trimester to tell Mom. I asked if that was for her sake or mine. She ended the call. Mom emailed me a month ago. She offered to pay for my future wedding if I stopped cutting her out. I replied that I didn't want her money, but accountability. She didn't write back. Dad sold their vacation home 2 weeks later, the one we'd gone to every summer until I left for college. He gave me 1/3 of the profit. Mom tried to stop him, but her name wasn't on the deed. I deposited the check and bought a new couch. I love it. Ran into Mom at CVS. She saw me induct. I grabbed my allergy meds and left. The cashier asked if I wanted a receipt. I declined. Started a new tradition, monthly dinners at Emily's. Jess brings her dog. Dad came once. He held the baby for 20 minutes straight and stated that this was how it should have been. Emily's toddler spilled juice on his pants. He laughed. Mom's cousin tracked me down through LinkedIn. She messaged that my mom was lonely and asked if I could try again. I agreed to coffee. Mom showed up and ordered a latte with extra foam and spent 12 minutes listing everything I'd taken. Dad, Emily, Jess, her reputation. I stood up when she started on the baptism. She followed me to the parking lot, yelling that I was just like her. I drove off. Moved apartments last month. Didn't tell Mom. Dad knows the address but won't share it. Emily's toddler drew a family picture in crayon. Me, her, Jess, the kid's dad. No Mom. Jess framed it and put it on her bookshelf. Last week, a padded envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a photo of me at 5 with Mom. I destroyed it by burning it. The smoke alarm didn't go off. I don't know what happens now. Dad texts me updates about his tomato plants. Emily sends videos of the baby clapping. Jess complains about her upstairs neighbors. Mom's silence is a hole where the anger used to be. If your parent ever mistook control for love, how did you stop waiting for them to change? And when do you get to stop feeling like the villain for surviving it?